اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله وبحمده توكلت عليكم يا رب يا We are going to, inshallah, a very important topic today. It's not just important, but it's also a bit difficult to understand. Therefore, your full attention will be important for you to be able to understand it, But inshallah, I will try to make it as simple and understandable as possible, inshallah. The topic for today, and this will continue, inshallah, for a few times, inshallah. We will not be able to finish it all today. The topic today is al-aql. Those of us who are familiar with Arabic or Urdu language readily understand the word al-aql. There is no English actual word for it. They would call it intelligence, they would call it mind, they would call it thinking, but they don't have a concept of al-aql. In Arabic language, the word al-aql means to control oneself, to hold back. And truly, if you look at those meanings, those are a very applicable meaning to the concept of al-aql. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed only human beings with this ability or this trait of al-aql. A physical body, 5 senses, a will, and some freedom to choice and behavior are common to all creations. Aql is the only trait that makes human beings unique and superior to others, and therefore it also renders us human beings accountable for the choices and for the deeds that we make. It is because of the aql that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold us accountable in the Day of Judgment, whether we followed the Sharia or not, whether we followed His ahkam, His commandments or not. Therefore, aql is a requirement for being held accountable. If a person is not able to understand, if Allah has created him weak-minded, mentally handicapped, and he's not able to understand right from the wrong, what would harm him, what would benefit him, he would not be held accountable in the Day of Judgment. Therefore, all ibadat are obligated only upon those who understand what ibadat is, what is the purpose of it, and why they are doing it. If they don't understand this, if they're not able to understand it, those worships are not applicable to them. Those ahkam are not applicable to them. Now, the definition, aql has been defined in so many different ways. Our own scholars, if you look at, if you do some research, even our own scholars have more or less more than 20 definitions of aql. Why is that so? Because aql is a concept. Aql is not something that exists somewhere that you can say, well, this is aql. It's a concept, which is why it is difficult to define. Again, where is it?
This something like the advanced idea or like this?
No, not necessarily. Again, the question is, well, where is it? Where does it reside?
Right.
Some scholars say it resides in your mind, in your brain. Some say it resides in your heart. But nobody's sure where does it reside. A simple definition of aql that I use, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with al-aql, is to be able to recognize your Rabb. Is to be able to recognize your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognize and get to know your Lord with the signs that He has provided you, because we can't see it. We can't see Him. Only through this aql that we can come to understand and believe so firmly in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once the knowledge, the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in, then also what follows is the accountability, that if I'm created by somebody, if Allah is the creator, then there must be a reason for why am I created. For what is the purpose, what is the objective of my creation. And using your knowledge, your experiences, your observations to come to right conclusions about it. For example, we all know everything that exists dies. Am I right?
Yes.
We all know that everything that exists dies. We all know that we see human beings dying all the time. And we all know that it doesn't have to take for a person to get old and die. Some die as children. Some die even before born. Some die in their young adulthood. Some die as children. Some die as elderly people. Which means what we learn from this aql is that there's no set time for people can die. What does this aql tells us then also is that means I cannot say for myself when I'm gonna die and how long would I have to live. Then that also the aql wants to understand that what am I supposed to be doing here, and then what happens when I die. Do I die and then it's the end of life? It's done? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in human beings, only in human beings from all the creations, a desire to understand, a desire to know, a desire to understand. That desire does not exist in any other creatures. They just live. Their life is set. The purpose of their life is set. And they just keep living it instinctually. Whatever wisdom they have some wisdom as well. But their wisdom is limited to survival. If I'm going to eat it, this is poisonous, I'm going to die. And these are my enemies. I'm going to have to watch myself from these other animals that eat me and my children. I have to watch myself for it. So they have that kind of understanding as well.
Yes.
But beyond that, they don't have a desire to understand any further. And we have an inborn desire. From the time we are born, an inborn desire to want to understand. You notice a child when the child is born. Look at the child of the infant. The infant is not able to speak. The infant is not able to express anything. But his eyes, her eyes.
Yeah.
Notice.
Right.
He can only hear, his senses are intact. But the information that his senses provide him or her, he cannot make sense out of. Am I right? The child's senses are active, but he cannot make much sense out of the information provided to him by his sense. But if you look at his eyes,
Oh, yeah.
it's always looking, it's always looking. He's trying to understand, make some sense. And from experience, he begins to make sense. For example, he looks at his father, his brothers and sisters if they're there, and he or she looks at the mother. And then he sees a difference when he looks at the mother, then he looks at the father. Notice that. From the senses of observation and touch, when the mother touches him, picks him up, different sensation than the father picks him up. Am I right?
Yes.
Notice the difference between how a mother picks up a child and how the father picks up a child. And from this sensory differentiation, she begins to make sense. I am more safe and secure with my mother. Therefore, when he or she cries, who does she want? What do you want? The mom, not the dad. So we have an inborn desire to want to understand. It is that desire to understand that Allah has given us that gets us to use the aql that we have. And the aql is served by the senses, the five senses, because the five senses are the providers of information. Am I right?
Right.
The five senses are providers of information. And it is served by experiences. However, coming to the right conclusion from the experiences is not the easy thing.
Right.
Because experience is actually the perception of an event. Please understand. An experience is a perception of an event. And perceptions are selective. We see and hear what we want to see and hear, what makes sense to us, what we can understand, how we perceive things. Therefore, an experience may be the same. An event that we are experiencing may be the same. But our experience from each of these events may be very different. And therefore, we may not still reach the right conclusions. So, aql also has its limitations. Knowledge is also a vehicle through which information is achieved. Correct? Knowledge is a vehicle, is a means through which we receive information. We learn about things. But knowledge does not gives you up. Because the people with knowledge reach the wrong conclusions, not the same conclusions. Right? How the need, the desire to know, the desire to understand, how does it initiate the functioning of knowledge and to reach the right conclusion? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides a very beautiful example of this process in the Quran. These verses are for Surah Al-An'am, verses 74 to 79. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإذ قال إبراهيم لأبيه آزر أتتخذ أصناما آلهة. Subhanallah, look, pay attention to what you read and have a desire to understand. وإذ قال إبراهيم لأبيه آزر أتتخذ أصناما آلهة إني أراك وقومك في ضلال مبين. Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, when he asked his father, and in some interpretations, the first he says it was his maternal uncle. Wallahu alam bisawab, I don't know. His name was Azar. His father or his maternal uncle used to build these gods that they put in their worship place and they worshipped it. He saw, because he lived with him, he saw his father building these idols. And he saw the rest of the people bowing and asking things and asking help from these idols. That did not make sense. That did not make sense. Why did it not make sense? He said to him, I see that you and your people are in clear jahalat. Why did he say this? Because his mind, his aql, could not accept the fact that an idol that you made out of straw and wood and earth can have any power. And for somebody to be able to help you as human beings, to fulfill your needs, to secure you, to protect you, this being has to be superior than human beings.
Right.
This being has to have abilities above and beyond, power above and beyond humans. Is that difficult to understand?
No. Okay.
Even a little boy would understand this.
Yeah.
You see, this is what the ability that Allah has given us. And this is how it begins. Something does not make sense. Your mind is not able to accept something. It does not make sense. Now, here's the sad part. When our minds are brainwashed, intentionally, purposely, by all kinds of sources, to make sense something that doesn't make sense. When our minds are brainwashed in believing something as right that our mind does not accept as right, then the mind's ability is lost.
Right.
When a child is told over and over again something in a certain way, that's what he begins to believe then.
Yeah.
Then he doesn't question anymore.
Right.
Our minds are being brainwashed so much that we have lost the ability to question. We just accept it. And that's the problem we have these days.
Yeah, that's right.
We no longer question. We are made to accept. We are forced to accept. And even those minds and those hearts which have the nur of Allah in them, which have the nur of Iman in them, every now and then they would say, but that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense. But how can it make sense?
Right.
It will keep happening all through life. But those who don't have that Iman in their heart, Those who were not blessed with that iman at the time of their birth
Right.
will never see this. Even if they question it, they will just ignore it. And they say, I don't know. I don't care.
You don't care.
So now, let's continue with the story of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So he saw his father or his uncle making these idols. And these idols were kept in their place of worship. And people would gather there to worship these idols and ask them to fulfill their needs and to protect them, etc., etc. It doesn't make sense. He questioned his father. He says, what is this? How does this make sense to you? He said, shh, that's all we have seen our forefathers do.
Yeah.
So that's all we do. So shut up. Right? But he would not shut up. Because his internal need and desire to want to understand. One thing had become clear to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. One thing had become clear to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, that human beings are not able to do everything for themselves, protect themselves, meet their need themselves. They need to go to somebody else above and beyond them to meet those needs, to protect them, etc., etc. There has to be somebody then beyond. Now here is the interesting part about human history. In the entire human history, there always has been an understanding that there is somebody beyond humans who is in charge. The concept of God has always been there since Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, that there is a God. And why is that? Because every human being prior to birth, in Azal, in the beginning, were introduced to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Himself. All the arwah, all the souls of all human beings were pulled out of the back of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, and Allah asked them, am I not your creator? Am I not your Lord? And they all said, Bala, indeed you are. That inside has kept this alive, that there is a God. Alas, you can do whatever you want to do to eliminate God. It will never be eliminated from this knowledge that resides in you. Which is why spontaneously, when we lose all controls, when all hope is gone, even the most staunch disbeliever would say, oh God, help, we need a miracle.
Yeah.
So he knew already that there has to be somebody beyond human beings. Now, it's very interesting how the aql works. He knew that if there's somebody above and beyond human beings, the ability and controls and powers of above and beyond human beings, he's not on the earth. He doesn't reside on this earth. So where was he looking for? Up above. He was not looking on the earth, because on the earth he only saw human beings and animals and insects and birds, am I right? And none of them had any power. He saw it already. So he was looking where? And this is why every home, every nation, every people, when they talk about God and look for God, where did they look? Allahu Akbar kabira. Samajhne ki baat hai. So he started looking, and Allah guided him. وكذلك نوري إبراهيم ملكوت السماوات والأرض ولا يكون من الموقنين. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He was looking for it, because He was looking for it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them all the miracles of heavens and the earth. Everything of the heavens and the earth. And he started to look. And he looked at the planet. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. When nightfall came, it was dark. Allah only knows how long did he keep looking at the skies to find God. It was not a one-night thing, by the way. It was a process. He had been looking, he had been searching. And one day he saw this big planet. Now, planets stand out from stars because they're brighter. Am I right? Planets are brighter. Stars not as against the stars. So he saw a planet. And when he saw it, he said, قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Maybe this is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. But when the day came, disappeared. He said, I can't believe in a Lord that disappeared suddenly. So the process goes on. See, the curiosity to know does not stop. So it goes on. So then, another time, he saw the full moon. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا. Now obviously, when he saw al-qamar bazigan, chamakta hua bada sa, to wo pura chand ho gaya. It was a full moon. And he looked at it and he says, فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Maybe this is my Lord. And then he saw that this moon is declining, losing its glamour and shine, and then disappears. He goes back, he says, فَلَمَّا أَفْلَ قَالَ لَئِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. He said, what did he say? This cannot be my Lord. And if really my Lord had not helped me, he knows that somebody is helping me come to the right conclusion. So he said, Alhamdulillah, my Lord, whoever he is showing me the right path. He cannot be my Lord because it disappears and it has nuqs in it.
Right.
And then he saw in the daytime, فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغًا. He looked at the sun, very bright. Can't even keep his eye on it. He says, my God, that could be God. I can't even keep my eyes on it. It's so bright and shiny. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي أَكْبَرُ. This is the greatest of everything I've saw so far. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ. But when the night came, it again disappeared every night. And his mind could not believe, could not accept the fact that a God can be appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. He has to be always there. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. He said to them, I have nothing to do with everything that you associate with God because they have nothing to do with God. And those that I found up there have nothing to do with being God. God is above and beyond all of them, and maybe I can't see it. Remember something very important thing to understand. Everything we can see has to be limited to a body. Please understand. Everything that we can see has to be limited
Right.
and Allah is unlimited. So He cannot have a body. So, although I know that there is a Lord, but I also know that I can't actually see and identify Him as such. But from all the signs that I've seen up in the heavens and earth, how the planets are there, how the moon rises and falls, how the sun comes up and then it's dark, it tells me that somebody is in control of all of these things. What does He say? Inni wajjahtu wajhi lillazi fatara samawati wal ardi hanifa wa ma ana min al-mushrikeen. My people, I disown all that you worship besides God. I have set my face with single-minded devotion towards Him who has created the heavens and the earth. I am not one of the polytheists. Today, because of all the brainwashing that is going on, lots of our young people are saying, where is God? Am I right? Where's God? And their mind has been dulled not to notice that the question is absurd. The question, where's God, is absurd. It doesn't make sense. Because if God can be identified in one place, He cannot be God. Am I right?
Yes.
If a God can be placed in one place and say, here's God, then it cannot be God. Because it's limited to that place, in that body. But who is going to teach our kids this? Who is going to teach our kids this? That's why we need to teach Deen differently now. We can't just teach them in the traditional way of Deen, because these questions will come to their mind.
Right.
Why? Because they're curious to know.
Right.
They're curious to know, and they need to have an answer. They need to be guided. Their curiosity needs to be guided in a way that Allah takes charge to then show them the signs that I am here. When Musa alayhi salatu salam went to Tur, it was dark, he has his family with him, and he said, I don't know the way, I'm lost, we are lost now, but I see some light on that mountain. Just sit here, wait. I'm going to go and maybe bring some fire with me to show us the path, or at least find out if some people are there, if they know the way. He goes up there. What does he see? He sees a tree which was shining with light. There was nobody there. Did he see God there? Did he see God there? No. He just saw a tree which was all lighted. And he was marveling and wondering and afraid of, what is this? And then Allah speaks to him. Inni an Allah, I am the God. But where is the voice coming from? Not from a specific object. Am I right? It's not coming from a specific object. He backed up and started running. He was afraid. He said, don't be afraid. This is not for a place to be afraid. What does it tell us? Even the prophets were not able to locate and see the God and say, there's God. They deduced this from the experiences and from the signs. that could not reach any other conclusion. You can say, we know how this works. We know how this works. We know how this works. Fine, that's not a problem. But why do they work this way? We don't know. Why do they work this way? We don't know. And then you can either be bi'aql, without any aql, to say, we don't know, so we don't know. Or you have some aql. And you say, no. It cannot all be working the way it is. Somebody is making it work like this. This is aql. They don't accept, no, we don't know that. That's good enough. We know how it works. This is what scientists are about. Am I right or wrong about this?
That's right, yeah.
But the wise one, the one with the al-aql, would say, no. I can't say, I don't care. I know how it works. But somebody is making it work this way because it consistently works this way. Because something consistently works a specific way, it has to be programmed to do it. Correct? And this is how the aql works. We will continue with this topic for many days, many times. It's not an easy topic. But we need to talk about it, we need to understand it. So I will stop, inshallah, and we'll continue. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad. سبحان ربي العلي الوهاب ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الجحيم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين اللهم توفنا مسلمين والحقنا بالصالحين غير خزايا ومفتونين ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء والأموات صلى الله تعالى على خلقه محمد. The young people who are here, I want to ask you something. Did you understand what I was saying?
Yes, sir.
Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
If it does make sense, I would truly request you, ask your friends to come in who has these doubts and questions.
Right.
Those of your friends, your family members, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, who have these doubts, bring them so they can learn. Or spread this to them, this knowledge. Because now that you have it, you're obligated to spread it to others.
Yeah.
So
I can just stir the pot here.
Okay.
Starting with, maybe I'm also middle age, if you're looking for youth.
Okay.
So, in Quran, and we say, Inna Samena wa Ta'ala. That is the order from
Allah
to the humanity. And then when these non-Muslims or anybody, even including Muslims with some extra intelligence, if they question, if they ask for any questions, then they are told, you are getting out of your limit or out of your boundaries. So why is it like that?
Why is it what like this?
Why is it like that? Why don't we welcome those questions, and why don't we, our ulama, answer to these questions?
Because the answer to that is simple. We are not used to learn, think and teach that way. We are not used to learn, teach and think that way. We think in the way of, we are Muslims, this is Allah's hukum, we obey.
Yeah.
This is how we think.
That was the past, I can even say that was a time of ignorance and all that. But now we are living in 21st century, and along the way it will be more and more and more intelligent questions, with all artificial intelligence, these future generations will be asking more questions.
For sure.
So our ulama should be ready and equipped to answer those things.
Whatever the ulama is doing, we have started to do this. Correct?
Yeah.
This is what we started to do. Now, the thing is, like I said, a way of thinking becomes ingrained in you. The way of thinking becomes ingrained in you. A father who deals with his children the way he was dealt with as a child.
Yeah.
That has been ingrained in him. And he would say, I'm doing exactly what my dad did. I'm teaching him exactly what my dad taught me. He sees that it's not working. But his mind cannot think beyond that.
Those kuffar also used to say the same thing.
That's right.
Right? That we will not leave the path of our forefathers.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. What has been ingrained in our thinking, and because we don't know any different way of thinking, we just go back to the same thing that we know. So, ulama have to, and they are, alhamdulillah, they are waking up, and they are doing these things. You know, but it has to be a gradual change, and would come through experience. Experience of what? Something is not working. The same old thing is not working. We need to do something different. And when this realization comes, it is coming slow. But it is coming. When this realization comes, that would happen. But it's hard to start.
Yeah, with higher education. Traditionally we have our ulama only coming from our madaris. But now when we will have inshallah the scientists, ulama and with background of psychology and psychiatry and science and medicine, then inshallah, but we really need to move very quickly forward. We are losing the ground.
Well, it's going to move on its own pace. We can't force this. It's going to move on its own pace. See, as I said, even this day and age, people who have lived here, educated here for many, many, many years, even in their own family, the way they deal with each other is not changing.
No.
Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget about ulama and the scholars.
Exactly.
It's not changing. And they are not uneducated people. They are scientists, they are doctors, they are educators. But the way of thinking about something is ingrained. And that only changes when they begin to find out that they're downing, what they're doing is not working. They need to change, they need to do something different.
Future generations, next generation will change. I have.
The next generation is not gonna, the next generation is gonna do exactly the same thing and even worse.
Right.
If we don't take the charge to guide their mind in the right way of thinking. We need to do this. We need to change these young people's thinking in the right direction. And once we get them to think in the right direction, Allah will take over like He did with Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Subhanallah.
The thing is that we have to train up first.
Ourselves.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Move fast. Brother Manzoor is saying that we need to move
Absolutely.
fast as a community.
Absolutely. Now look,
It is not easy things to motivate and things because we have to get up.
right, but look how many people are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was
This is
announced.
important.
This was announced. This was put on the face in all the immediate things. But look how many people are there. Why is that?
They're lost.
Lack of interest.
Why is there's a lack of interest? I don't want to know about all of these things.
Yeah.
Why? Because then I'm accountable. Then I would have to do something with it. Now that you all have heard what you have today, you will think and say, I have to be thinking about this. I have to think in a different way now.
Right.
If you left here and kept living the same way, this was a waste of time. But people need to be interested,
Yeah.
to be in here, to want to learn.
But your first thing, brainwash, it is very important.
Yeah.
Brainwash,
Yeah.
it is very important.
Yeah.
Because we build up in such an environment where is Islam and Muslims majority, but when we migrate this country, but we are not, we are still little bit deviate, but not fully. But thing is that our children, they are not getting this.
You're absolutely
lesson.
right.
This is the great
You know, one
thing.
thing is, it's not just here,
Yeah.
it's everywhere,
Everywhere.
in the entire world, even in the
Pakistan,
Muslim countries,
in our country, Pakistan.
even in Saudi Arabia, even in Medina and Makkah. Am I wrong? Right or wrong about this?
Right, no,
Who is planning and who is we are taking.
But the other thing is also, we have to blame ourselves as well, regardless of all this brainwashing. If our object of life is material success,
Material success. Right.
if our individual object is material success,
Material success.
Yeah.
right,
Reality.
then we don't want to look at anything else.
Yeah.
Our success is determined by how educated my son is, how many degrees does he have, how much money does he make, what kind of car he drives, what kind of house does he have his own house or not. Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
And our hearts and minds are so preoccupied with this that our aql only works in that direction.
Yeah.
अब ये किसका fault है भाई? ये तो उलमा का fault नहीं है. This is not the fault of ulamas or anybody. We all are accountable for all of this. Inshallah, we'll continue.
Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Islam.
Wa alaikum.